is Dallas Cowboys owner and general manager Jerry Jones. Good morning, sir.
Hey, Kevin, Corey, Mike, man, we got a good thing going. This is good luck.
Yeah, we do.
Indeed, we do. We got a good thing going on our show today, too. We're at Buffalo Wild Wings, like right down the street from AT&T Stadium. Can you leave the doors open for us so we can go hang out in the stadium after the show is over?
If you'll bring me a sack of those those wings, I can always leave a door open for the stranded if you'll bring wings.
Yeah, and I'll bring a couple cases of Miller Lite too, Jerry, and we'll be taken care of there. How's that sound?
Hey, you don't need to keep that. I got a bunch of it out here.
There's been a lot of, obviously, great victory in week one, and then it felt like we found out Brandin Cooks is dealing with a knee issue. I was hoping you could give us status update about his possibility going into Sunday.
Well, his situation has truly been on the wait-and-see look, but since we first were aware of it, which was right after the game. And so I don't have a definitive answer. He'll work some today, I'm sure, or maybe not. But we're still a long way in terms of this type of injury and the ability to play on it. We're a long way from kickoff, a long way. We've got several, 48, 60 hours, however many hours. I'm not even going to add it up. But the point is,
53.
We'll look at it at game time. He's got it down, so we don't need the reps. So
Jerry,
it'll be a game time deal, in my opinion.
If you ever need a math guy, my co-host Kevin is always now. He's very good. He's my human calculator. I keep him around for that purpose specifically, Jerry. So he's always there for you. All right.
I can do math. I just don't have the time to figure. I've got other things to do. So I'll let you guys do that.
I'm totally fine with that. Now we're all buzzing off of the season opening victory. I was curious. It just seems like human nature to potentially hit that letdown. How do you avoid that after such a dominating victory in week one?
Well, I think you've got to understand the game of football. We got up on them, and when you get up on an opponent, boy, you can have a runaway situation, and especially when you inject an inordinate number of turnovers, and that's what happened. And then it completely took them out of their game plan, and they couldn't run that ball down their throats like they'd planned to. And we got to tee off on them because they had to go out of a plan that they hadn't planned on, I'm sure. Having said that, that's what happens. And so I've been a part of very few blowouts in the years I've been in the NFL. But when it happens, it's not necessarily indicative of the difference between the teams.
Jerry, Stephon Gilmore, after his interception, you saw on the sounds from the sideline, a lot of the players walking over and just talking to him about how amazing it is to watch him and how good he is. And then Tony Pollard walks over and he's like, I'm watching greatness right now. I'm seeing greatness. When was the last time you can remember that you had a secondary that you feel this comfortable with?
Well, I think that you've hit it when you're talking about secondary are all of the people that are involved. And I don't remember when we've had this many numbers of outstanding players. And all of them have a role, and not that that's necessary, of course. But the big thing is that you just go down through them, and, man, they can tackle. That's big in the secondary. They have the ability to cover. More importantly, they've got a system in place that they understand, and they're starting to do impromptu things that you can do when you've gotten very familiar with the system. And they can shade it a little bit, knowing what's coming. All of those things are the evolving of a thing of beauty, really. And hopefully we can continue this evolving in the secondary. Of course, it all wraps up around the teamwork. It goes with the front, and we're proud of that front, to say the least. And then again, I don't want to be trite, but all of that works over to give your offense a better chance to be what it could be.
You know, the other thing, too, that I kind of gathered was each one of these, like even the offense, the defensive side, on the sidelines, those guys look like they're the hype man for the next guy that's going out there to make a play. And, you know, you played on a championship team. You know what that feeling's like whenever you're like, I know these guys are about to make a play. And I think the continuity, you know, keeping a lot of these guys together, the friendships and bonds they've built have been really important to this team. When you see that kind of team effort, what they're doing when they're rooting for each other that way, what does that make you feel?
Well, I know this. My experience on getting to be on a championship team changed my life because it caused me to realize it could happen to me, not just people I read about. It's what changed my life. And it also made me reach for the stars and try to do things that seemed out of reach. And the same thing happened. It was inspirational. We barely got by when I was a senior. We barely got by our first 3 ball games. Almost lost them. And then we went down and beat the number 1 team in the nation, the mighty Longhorns. We were never scored on again. And we changed. When the team went back to Fayetteville, Arkansas, those kids that were on that plane, when they looked in the mirror, were never the same again. And it just emboldened you. That's what great experience and success does, and it's real.
Do you think the big-time losses can have a similar effect? Like, you lose to San Francisco 2 consecutive years in the playoffs. Can seeing that other team celebrate or knowing that team is going on to the place where you want to be, do you think that can have the same effect?
Well, absolutely. To the degree that you totally depend on that evolving, I go as far as to say both those frauds will get you in trouble. Ultimate success and living in it is a fraud. It'll get you in trouble. You're really not there. Ultimate failure is a fraud. You're really not there either. And so you can't let those two just totally dictate your life. And so, again, that's the management of what is within. But what I love about our game is that it certainly has an advantage if you got the size, the speed, frankly, if you've got the temperament to play physical as far as football is concerned. And that's all well and good. But let me tell you something else. There's something that you just can't define it in a draft room. And there's something inside. And it's like walking in a business school and trying to pick the billionaires out in the classroom when they're in business school. You can't do it. Matter of fact, likely they dropped out. They aren't even in there. And so the point is, something happens inside in our game, and hopefully that can happen to us. I've seen it happen. I saw it happen to the Cowboys. And it's possible. That's what you strive for.
Jerry, I heard you with Bobby and the other guys this week, and you were talking about Aaron Rodgers and how you're sick for the whole league and everything there. And then I wanted to kind of narrow that down just a little bit more with Zach Wilson now. What do you say to a quarterback that's that young that you already kind of showed, look, we got to give somebody else in here, and now you got to turn to him and say, hey, look, you were the guy all along. Like, what's the conversation like for that guy to get motivated to get back out there?
Well, I think that we all should turn to examples where they've seen it happen. We lost Tony Romo. I will argue that you may never have seen Dak Prescott had you not lost Tony Romo. And we thought we were down and out, and Prescott comes in, and the rest is history. And Tony didn't get his job back. And so the point is, it happens. Last year, we lost Dak Prescott, and Cooper Rush steps in and gives us a pathway to get in a Super Bowl. So I would go to example. By the way, that's pretty much our game, is you look for whether it's evaluating a player or whether it's trying to make a point to a team or a player. You look for others that have done it, and there are plenty of examples.
I know you put out a statement when Gil Brandt passed away, but now this weekend the team will have helmet stickers honoring Gil Brandt that just say Gil, which I think is super cool. I just wanted to give you a little outlet right there if there's anything else you wanted to throw out there about the man Gil Brandt.
Well, I can't emphasize enough my appreciation for what he did to make the NFL what it is today. Certainly his contribution to the Cowboys is well documented, and we have so much tangible things that we have that are because of his unique skill. The last thing that I got to visit with him about was the status of our running backs this year at camp. I knew he was in trouble, and his family did, so I called him from camp, and all he wanted to talk about was what we may need to be doing at running back, and he was evaluating our down the line running backs. And so my point is, he was Gil as to his focus and interest. He was trying to help the Dallas Cowboys. When he left the Cowboys as personnel director, he was, in my view, the number one positive ambassador for the Dallas Cowboys all these years.
When he evaluated for you, did you take some of that advice, or did you guys banter back and forth? And you're like, "Nah, I'm telling you, Deuce Vaughn's going to be good."
Oh, I sure did. A lot of people don't remember, or I've got to pinpoint it. I think maybe they do remember. But Gil was sitting there with the information in our first draft when we drafted Troy Aikman. Well, he was still right there in the draft room. He was there. And, of course, he was very valuable in his input in that first draft, and we got several significant players in that first draft.
Now, we talked about Brandin Cooks earlier. I was kind of curious if you have any update on or how we're feeling about Tyler Smith this weekend, and perhaps what kind of job you thought Chuma Edoga did in his place.
Well, Edoga did outstanding for as far as meeting expectation, and hopefully we'll see that as the season goes along. We need it, and Tyler is questionable and hadn't gotten the work that you'd normally think for him to play. But again, we've got a couple of days. Let's see what the day brings. He's probably the least likely to be active Sunday.
Oh, okay. Appreciate that very much. I've been fascinated by the issue of the NFL overseas for a while. We saw that Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is going to have at least 2 games per year, I believe through 2030. Do you look at that project and think in 2030 an actual European NFL team might be viable?
Well, those are projections that have to assume usually that you're going to expand. Now, you could have a team move, but that you're going to expand. And that is iffy as to whether or not we'll be expanding. But the city that has the greatest potential, there are 2 of them, Mexico City and London, possibly even Toronto. But those cities are the ones that are in my mind, could support an NFL team. And certainly the Hotspur Stadium is right there in London. And I'm excited about the enthusiasm that has evolved and grown for our football in London and really in Europe.
Hey, Jerry, each week we look at matchups and try to see where the edge is for the Cowboys each week, trying to figure that out. And then there's some that we get really excited about. And Sauce Gardner is an exceptional player. I mean, he was a phenomenal cornerback last year, and he stepped right back into it. And I know that CD is going to move around and everything, but is there a specific each week that, or even with this week, one of those matchups that you're looking at going, man, I really am very interested, not just for the Cowboys, but also like for the NFL to see this matchup happen?
Well, I like but one of the things that I think has the most promise for our offense is what we can do with our tight ends. And that gives us a lot of flexibility in the run game and obviously the passing game. And so you talked about one, but I'd like to see us as the time goes along here having those tight ends more involved in the passing game, because they certainly enhance the running game.
Absolutely. And then, there was one other thing. Miller Lite does have us kind of traveling all over DFW. Every Friday we're going to be out thanks to Miller Lite. And I just wanted to know from you, like, who's the person that you haven't gotten to share a Miller Lite with yet that you're like, I really want to sit down with them and have a nice cold Miller Lite?
Well, do I get to I don't know that I've got one in this 9 million Metroplex that I have missed. But, no, seriously, I don't know that I have anything that I'm prouder of than the fact that the only beer that has ever been associated with the Cowboys is Miller Lite. When I bought the Cowboys, there was no beer alcohol served in the stadium at all. It was brought in, and people brought it in coolers, but it was not sold and served officially. Miller Lite was the first one and the only one that we have had all these years. And I've been all over the state of Texas with Miller Lite and for Miller Lite. It's a classic example of how when you associate your brand, the Dallas Cowboys, with the highest and the best quality product or service or brand, it does nothing but grow the Dallas Cowboys. Miller Lite is that. It is that. And I urge everybody to raise a can or raise a bottle of Miller Lite up to the Dallas Cowboys.
And you, as the owner of the Cowboys, and us as sports fans, we can all admit we've definitely had plenty of games where we'd like to drink until we can forget it, right?
Well, I'm just thirsty normally. I can't figure it out. But it's certainly sometimes my father called me after I'd been involved with the Cowboys for about 3 weeks, and he said, son, he said, I had no idea this thing had the visibility and potentially even the criticism that you're involved in. And he said, boy, I hope you know how to handle the pressure. And my father loved to have a Miller Lite as well, and had a good time doing it. It was very responsible. I said, Dad, I've learned from the best of how to handle pressure. Miller Lite and I'll get through it.
Man, outstanding stuff today. Good luck in the home opener. Appreciate your time. As always, good sir.
Good to be on with you guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.